Good afternoon, everyone. Hi there, and welcome to this afternoon show. I have a very special guest today, and it's Dusty Porter, and we're going to take a deep dive into the subject of producing tutorial content on YouTube, which not only includes the ins and outs of creating how-to content, but also monetization considerations. Welcome, Dusty.
Thank you so much, Gord. I really appreciate you having me on today. I am super excited about this conversation, not only for what we're going to be doing today on the live stream, but it's going to be able to be up on the podcast feed for the show that I host here later today. And so I feel like all of the questions that you have prepared and we have discussed, I feel like we're going to have a really good conversation today.
So I agree. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I've always wanted to have a deep dive conversation. But first, before we go into that, I want to share a bit about your background and how we came to meet. So it's kind of interesting because of our similar passions. So it was not long ago, just sharing with everyone, that I met Dusty, and it happened because I was one day watching a Dan Courier on his live subscriber show on a Wednesday night, and Dusty referred to having experienced some of my Camtasia content and how much he enjoyed that, and you know, from there we had a few comment exchanges in the live stream, and you know, I followed up, and here we are today, and I'm just, you know, so excited to have made the connection with you, Dusty, and you know, you never know how connections can happen.
That is very true, and I just remember searching one day, and I was searching for. You know, I was learning Camtasia, trying to do some stuff for my how-to videos, and your videos kept coming up, and I was like, man, this guy knows his stuff. And so definitely give you props for what you've done for your content. I really appreciate you again having me on today. Can't wait to dive in.
Thank you. And so our first collaboration was when Dusty recently had me on as a guest on his YouTube Creators Hub podcast show, and that's episode number 113. I think we did this in the last 3 weeks, and I think it's done very well, and it was one of the most exciting interview experiences I had, so I want to thank you for that, Dusty, as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm proud of the show that you and I put out. I'm proud of this one that we're about to put out today. It's going to kind of be a role reversal where you get to interview me and talk with me kind of about the history of my channel and my, I guess you would say, my go at YouTube. And so I'm super excited about that.
Yes, exactly. So just to give people a little bit of a background about Dusty, he's an online content creator, and he's a podcaster, and maybe not many know you're a voice actor, but you have an awesome voice, and obviously your audio quality is ace, and so that's an extra interesting aspect of you to me, because I'm sort of like an aspiring someday want to do the voice acting thing, because that's sort of in my interest. So Dusty also runs his technology based YouTube channel, which is called Dusty Porter now, but was formerly called Technology Guru, right? And your two podcasts, one which we already said was the YouTube Creators Hub, and now you also have something called Podcasters Unplugged. Do you want to just share for people what that's about, Dusty?
So Podcasters Unplugged was just kind of something I did for a season, about a year of my life. I dedicated to reaching out to podcasters, basically very similar to the show that you're listening to this on now, which would be YouTube Creators Hub. I would interview podcast creators about their journey in podcasting in hopes of helping other people start a podcast. And that show, just to kind of tell you guys a little bit about evergreen content, which we're going to talk a lot about today.
Yes.
That show still gets hundreds of downloads a day, and I haven't published a new one in probably 2 years. So that's the power of evergreen content.
Yeah, and you know, I think that you raised a great point. I think a lot of people want to hear about the journey of other creators, you know, like you and I. And you know, I'm very curious because you yourself do a lot of how-to content like I do. So to hear some of the nuances and differences today that we're going to share, I think is going to be quite powerful. And you know, I'd like to at the same time just welcome everybody in the chat. It looks like there's a lot going on, and so thank you everybody for coming. And oh, look, there's a super chat there from E for Electric. Thank you very much, Alex. So we're gonna we're going to come to those questions in a little while, but first we're going to dive in. And I see we got some other regulars here, like Beanie Draws and Ross Silers, and your Real Estate Whisperer, and others. Thank you all for coming. And Pam Duthie. Great. So first off, I want to, take some deep dive questions, Dusty. And, if someone wants to create a how-to channel because they like to teach, self-proclaimed, I love teaching, and I know you do, and that's why you bring all this amazing content to people. What should they do to target a niche? Should they look at something that's, very popular out there, or something that's just like a hardcore passion that may be a hobby? Because I look at this as a long-term game, and I think it's very important, because the long run, it'll be filled with up and down cycles of inspiration and focus. So what do you think people should do if they're looking at to get in to start a channel to do some how-to?
So when you think about how-to channels and educational channels, oftentimes you don't think of people starting their channels solely to do how-to content. Very few people do that. I did that just because of the nature of kind of what led me to YouTube. But what I would encourage people to do, if they like to teach, if they like to educate, and the beauty of how-to channels is that it's different than, say, vlogging, or say if you're a video gamer trying to make it in the crowded space that is YouTube. With how-to content, if you can get people who click on that video to accomplish the goal that they came to that video for, then you have accomplished what you set out to do. And so when you're thinking about starting your channel and you're thinking about niching down, I know you and I, Gord, have talked about this with what you do with Camtasia. I made a decision a long time ago that I love technology. I love software. I love new and shiny things. And so I have centered my channel around how-to videos on everything technology. So one day it may be a Skype tutorial. One day it may be a YouTube tutorial. The next day it may be a Google Calendar tutorial. And so for what I've done is I've kept it really broad. So I don't have people kind of pigeonholing me to basically one specific topic. But I would encourage people, let's say you're passionate about automobiles or cars. And you're
like we have Alex here. Sorry to interrupt, Dusty. E for Electric. The gentleman who did the super chat, he runs a daily, almost like news style channel for electric cars, and he's very niched and is doing very well.
And see, with something like that, you can think of what he's doing. I would encourage those people to find out things that people are wanting to know about the topic that you cover. Once you find out what those topics or what those points are, then start really focusing on producing high quality content that helps people achieve that goal. I know what I'll do is I normally get a lot of questions about something. I normally get questions of how to do this, how to do that. And what I normally do is I jot those down somewhere, an Evernote notebook or a notepad, and that's going to be my new video ideas. And so if you're thinking of a how-to channel, it doesn't have to be just technology or screencasting. It can be how to operate a car, how to drive a stick shift, how to tie a tie, how to play this chord on the guitar. How-to channels are not just specifically screencasting videos. They could be how to do anything. And that's kind of my encouragement.
Yeah, and that's very interesting, because most of what I do is screencast related. That's deep dives into software like Camtasia. But I also do things showing behind the scenes and how to do lighting and other stuff, so where I'm on screen and stuff. So there's so many dimensions to what you can do, which I think is very fascinating. And what I really like about what you're doing, it's something I'm also trying to do. And because you're sort of further down the road with, you have like, I think, you have over 11,000 subscribers now. So you've figured it out well, and are doing quite well in terms of growth. And I think a lot of people shy away from going broad, and I've kind of done a bit of that broad approach, although with to a degree a certain focus on Camtasia. But I'm into teaching people on video marketing and YouTube and video editing, creating. So I kind of have like a niche that's all about video, and but someone could argue that that's too broad. And I looked at it this way. I thought, Well, because I'm trying to build a business outside of YouTube, which is part of what we want to talk about today as well, monetization, I felt that it was good that I service people to not only give them information across a variety of areas under that niche umbrella, but also to be able to showcase your capabilities too. Like, what are your thoughts about that?
You got to kind of think of what you are good at, what you enjoy. And the thing that you can't do on YouTube is you can't fake passion. You can't fake interest, and you can't fake that you are interested in something. People ask me all the time, they say, Dusty, you've produced now over 300 some odd podcasts in between my two shows in regards to YouTube. Do you ever feel burnt out, or do you ever feel like you're going to run out of content? And my answer to that is no. I feel like I don't have enough time to produce all the content that I want to produce, especially when life gets hectic and crazy. And so I want people to really focus in, if they're listening to this today, I want the people to understand that you've got to look at yourself, and really, before you go and do a channel, create a YouTube channel, you may want to look at yourself first and say, okay, 2 years from now, if I'm still producing this type of content, will I be enjoying it? Will I be producing content that is quality? And so that's something that people have to really be observant about, is to look at themselves and to say, okay, my name is Gord, and I'm going to be creating content about Camtasia for a while. I'm going to be creating how-to content. Is this something that I can do and produce at a high level for a long, extended amount of time? And then if it does turn into a business, and it does turn into more, becomes more than a hobby, then you're not stuck into something that you're looking at later and you're like, man, I really wish I would have changed my channel to be this or topic A or B.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's a great point. I mean, I initially started out, I didn't do my focus into Camtasia stuff until the beginning of last year, because I was trying to teach about all things video. But as we know, depending on where you're focused, it can be harder to break in to, build your viewership. And so I decided to take a focus there for a while and did some regular publishing for quite a while to build up a nice archive of evergreen content. So I think there's different strategies that you can apply, and depending on where you're at, and sometimes you might have to pivot and try new things. And you did that with your branding. So I know I'm kind of jumping here to a different question, but you were called Tech Guru before, right? So you changed that. So that was a risk too, right? At being someone who was focused on tech and now to go back to branding with your name.
It was a humongous risk that to this day, I remember a few months back, it was the beginning of this year that I actually did that, Gord. I remember thinking to myself, I've built this thing up now, at the time, over 200,000 subscribers. Now, granted, my channel being a how-to channel is not a subscriber-based channel. It is a search-based channel. The majority of my subscribers do not watch my new videos. My new videos are for people searching for a specific topic or a specific question. My subscribers are people who are like, oh my goodness, this video really helped me out. I'm going to subscribe to you. Or, oh man, I really am interested in learning more about this topic or topic B or A or B, and I'm going to subscribe to you in case you publish more content on that specific topic. So you have to remember that. But I remember thinking to myself, I was getting a lot of questions. I was getting a lot of proposals from educational institutes, from software companies, from hardware companies. And it just looked and sounded very unprofessional to say, yeah, go over to YouTube, Technology Guru 77. It was a mouthful. It was hard to say. Yes, it was relevant, but I really had to look at it and say, okay, if I really want to make a go at this thing, I need to start branding my channel and what I'm doing with my name. And I was looking at the people in my space who was doing YouTube education, Brian Johnson, Owen Video, Nick Nimmin, Roberto Blake. Those guys all branded their channel around their first and last name. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to give this a go. I'm going to change my YouTube name because YouTube gives you the option to do that. So I went from Technology Guru 77 to now you can find me on YouTube, youtube.com/Dusty Porter, my first and last name. And Gord, I can tell you, it's one of the best changes I've ever made. It's allowed me and opened up doors beyond what I could explain to you. And now when I comment on people's things on live streams, and that's the big thing, right, is that my name comes up and they say, oh, that's Dusty. I know Dusty. And so that's the benefit of that. So it was a trying and a nerve-wracking time. I remember telling my wife, I'm really nervous about this, and she didn't understand. She was like, what are you talking about? Just do it. And so I did, and I'm very thankful that I did.
Well, that's great. And you know, that's one of the things I wanted to say is that, you know, as we're going through, whether it's our branding or we need to slightly pivot or try some new experiments in the process of growing out our channel, that we shouldn't shy away from some of them. But yes, be very sort of calculated in the risk that you're taking, and, you know, check around and see what others are doing, and you know, test your ideas out with others, like I'm sure you did before you took the step. So I think that's great. Now, let's just take a quick glance here. I wanted to share a couple of questions and comments that have been coming in, and let's just see here. So first off, Alex mentioned, Dusty, what are your thoughts on YouTube copyright strike policy, which assumes creators are guilty until proven innocent, and it can take weeks to get a channel back if someone submits a false claim?
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the way the system is right now, because of a lot of it is run by robots and algorithms and not by an actual human person. Unfortunately, the amount of content that is uploaded to YouTube on a daily and hourly basis is at an all-time high, which is good in a way. But when we're talking about copyright claims and that you're guilty until proven innocent, unfortunately, that's the way it is. That's the way it has been. And until they get more hands on deck, which they say they're going to do, that's just unfortunately the way that it's going to be. But what I would encourage you to do is to file that claim. If you know that it is falsely accused, you know, on your channel, file that claim. And then again, it could possibly take, like Alex said, it could take weeks to get your channel back. Again, that's very unfortunate, but you just kind of got to play by their rules right now, because this is kind of where we're at. But I do agree with people that say it is very frustrating, because it is frustrating to have your channel or videos falsely flagged. I had a lot of mine videos flagged a couple of years ago, and it had 2 strikes on my channel, and it took them weeks to get back with me. And finally they were removed, but it was a scary situation to think that my channel would be at risk due to that situation. So that's a great question proposed there by Alex.
Yeah, and you know, it's such a frustrating thing that there are, you know, there's AI and bots and different kinds of things that exist out in the internet space, and you know, there's just, you know, as much as can be taken over by machines, that direction happens, but then the limits to which that they can actually go, you know, end up being exposed when situations happen, and then they start to tune things and, you know, bring in you know, human intervention to help discern things better until the algorithms and technology learns to be better, the AI improves. And so, yeah, but it's so frustrating, because just the thought of, you know, you sitting there at 2 strikes with 1 more to go, and then what happens if that 3rd one came while they're still, you know, reviewing your other 2? You know.
Yeah, then your channel is normally either they revoke your privileges from uploading to YouTube, or they just remove all of your content from YouTube. And I've talked to creators who have hired me for consultancy, and they talk a lot about, you know, sometimes when I've had conversations with them, they'll say, oh my goodness, I've got my 3rd strike, what am I going to do? And then you know, moments or hours later, they'll email me back and say, well, my channel's been taken down. And obviously that's not what you want for anybody. And what I would always say to people is, number one, make sure your content is 100% solely your content. Make sure you never use anyone else's content. Follow the rules and guidelines. And unless it is a fringe case, normally, and again, it happens to certain people, normally you will not get flagged. You'll have situations where you will, but I'm encouraged to think and to know that YouTube will continue to do better and strive to kind of hone in their skills and get more hands on deck and to handle this better in the future.
Yeah, and in fact, just to follow up here from Alex, he said, it took me 5 weeks to win a false copyright strike, which was submitted by someone who took ownership of a video illegally. I was not able to stream live for that time, which was my main thing. So there's an example. How devastating can it be? He does daily live streaming, and he's out of commission. and because he's waiting because there's not enough manpower to review the situation. So frustration, crazy. I can't imagine. But this is where I often say, not that there's a valid excuse per se, but we are on this platform, and gracefully we're able to enjoy it at no cost, and that's a privilege. So they have growing pains, and I think we need to be more considerate of that, just by habit.
Yep, I agree completely.
So Dusty, given your variety of different kinds of tech tutorials, how have you managed to monetize what you're doing? Because you've mentioned that there's all kinds of corporations and different projects and things that you do. Can you give us some examples of how you've monetized your skill at being able to produce this kind of quality content for YouTube, as you've done, and I'm sure servicing people outside?
Sure. And my audience knows I talk about this as I use the analogy of a large tree that has a bunch of different branches going out from it. And that's what you want as a healthy YouTuber, is you don't want that to just be one big trunk growing from the bottom, from the ground to the sky. You don't want to rely solely on YouTube. And obviously the revenue coming in through AdSense, which is not nowhere near as much as what people think it is. Now, although it has gone up since they had made the changes, and they have removed the majority of people from being able to monetize because of the numbers. Right. I know everyone was up in arms about that, having to have 4,000 hours of watch time, having to have 1,000 subscribers. But I think when we look at it a year or two from now, I think for the overall health of YouTube, I think it may have been a really good decision. But I think that's yet to be determined, and we will kind of look at that and kind of see what's going on. But when it comes to monetization, you have the AdSense, obviously, that's one portion. Another one of mine is I do courses. So I have a course on ScreenFlow. I'm working on a really large course in collaboration with someone right now. I can't speak on it yet, but that's going to be releasing the next month or so. So I have 2 separate courses. I got one on the way. Those bring in some good revenue. Then you have affiliate income. And so, I got big affiliate partnerships with people like TubeBuddy, companies like the TechSmith with Camtasia. They do affiliates. People who do a lot like Adobe. When I do Adobe tutorials for Photoshop or Illustrator or Adobe Audition, they have an affiliate. Right. And so you have affiliate payments coming in from all of these different revenues and outlets. And that's the beauty of YouTube, is that every how-to video that I put out there, it ends up working for me and gets legs on it and works for me for years to come. And then lastly, I do want to mention this. I'm also, I have a Patreon page and revenue and things like that, such as a Patreon page for people just to go and to support you. That is a great way for people to say, listen, I find value in what Dusty is doing. I find value in what Gord is doing. So I'm going to throw him a couple of dollars a month. Now, you may not think that is very much, but if 1,000 people throw $5 at you a month, you're looking at $5,000 a month. There's a lot of people all over the world who would be very, very happy with having that as their income solely just coming from Patreon. And so you've got revenue streams such as that. And then obviously you have, I branched out and have done podcasts, so I have sponsorship deals there. Again, there are just so many things that you can do that, honestly, I saw a quote on Facebook or maybe Instagram a couple of days ago where it said, people love motivation. They love motivational speakers. But what they don't love is the work involved in getting where that motivational speaker is talking about. And that is so true. So many YouTubers, Gord, come to me and say, how do you grow a small YouTube channel? How do you get this? How do you get that on YouTube? How do you get success? It's honestly, it's a whole lot of work, and you just got to be willing to put it in.
And you know what? I think that's just a huge point, because, people see that Dusty's having all of this success now, but how long did it take you before these kind of opportunities started rolling in? I mean, just share for everybody, how long have you been running your channel, and would you say before you've been able to, I guess, make this as a full-time endeavor for you?
So as you mentioned at the top, I am a voice actor, and I have a lot of other ventures like wedding videography. As you can tell, like the AdSense portion of what's going on YouTube is nowhere near. Yeah. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you guys and transparent with you guys here on this week's show, because I want to bring value. I could live off of that. I could live off the AdSense revenue. I'm not going to lie, I could. But it's not something that I want to count on, because it
Right.
could be taken from me tomorrow. And that's just the way, there's ebbs and there's flows. But there was 5 to 7, I mean, probably 5 to 6 to 7 years of where I was working a full-time job out of college, going into college, through college, where I was making nothing. I would upload multiple videos a month. I would make goose egg. And, I would end up costing myself to actually run my channel. And it was not till about just under a year ago to where I told my wife, I said, I've thought about this. I've prayed about this. I think that I can go at this full time now, because I feel like I'm at a position to where I'm making enough money with all of these different revenue streams that we can actually make a go at this. And thank goodness, so far, it's worked out.
Well, that's awesome. And I think, you just hit it again on the whole idea that it's a long game, and people looking for something, very quick to get the money flowing in. It's not going to be AdSense revenue that's going to be the source. It's building these other avenues of revenue stream outside, which you so carefully and methodically built over years of hard work and practice. And that's why, again, the passion thing, I mean, you really got to be thinking about what's going to make your heart sing for a long time to stick with, because you go through these cycles, and like you're saying, it took quite a while to get going. So okay, I'd like to, just for a quick moment here again, come back to our comments, because we got a few more interesting things. First, I'll thank you very much, Marcia, for that nice super chat. And she commented, here, Michael Daniels as well for super chat. I love Michael. He's awesome. He's taught me a lot about the OBS and helped me set up the beautiful stuff I got here sharing with you today. And thank you for being here, and Marcia as well. Thank you. And let's see here. There was another question. I guess I've gone too far and missed it, and it'll take too long to recap. But let's continue with our interesting questions we have here. So, Dusty, when you produce your videos, can you tell me, like, what kind of structure do you have in mind? So if you're going to do, like, say you were doing a video on OBS, or you were doing something on Facebook, do you have a general sort of templated structure? Like, how do you structure your video, and what do you think about time and duration to execute on a video when you sit down with your mindset? Sort of carry us through that.
So over time, I have created a workflow that really works for me. And again, everyone's going to be different. Everyone's going to have a workflow. You and I have talked about this. I have the first thing I do is I open up an Evernote notepad, and I type in the actual topic or the actual question. So I type in, what am I trying to accomplish with this video? When someone leaves this video, will they be able to achieve what they've came here to achieve? And so I jot that question down, and then I put underneath that the topic or the video question or how-to video, I bullet point the different things that I want to cover, the main things that I'm trying to get across within the video. Right. I guess you would say the most important details of a how-to video. So think of it kind of like a skeleton, and you've got the head and the body and the feet and everything in between there. So I've got it kind of a bullet pointed out there on my Evernote sheet. And then once I do that, I start doing some SEO research. I start going to tools like, say, Morning Fame or something of that nature. And I go to the Google AdWords tool, and I start looking of what's ranking. I go to YouTube of what's ranking well for this specific topic or this specific question. Let's just use, for example, I got the new iPhone 10 when it came out at the beginning of the year. I always get the new iOS devices. And then what I do is I do tutorial videos about those. And so I YouTubed, iPhone 10 and then how-to. I just put iPhone 10 how-to. And then in YouTube, whatever people are searching for automatically comes up in the search list, obviously. And one of the main concerns I was having and issues I was having with that device was learning how to actually close multiple applications at once. And so I did a video on how to close multiple applications at once on the iPhone 10. Within a month, it had 50,000 views. Now it's got 300,000 views. You've got to find what people are searching for. And so a lot of people are very scripted. They like to follow a teleprompter. What has made me successful, what has allowed me to do hundreds of podcast episodes on YouTube and other topics, is my ability to get a topic and then start talking about that topic with knowledge. And so some people love to read off a teleprompter. Some people, Gord, love to have everything scripted word for word. I found that I can't do that very well. I found that I've got to get my topic, I've got to get my main bullet points, and then once I do that, I go for it. And if it takes me 2 or 3 or 4 takes, then I that's fine. But I want to make sure that when I approach a video, I know what I'm trying to accomplish. I know what that video's goal is, and then I go for it.
That's very interesting, because I've enjoyed the scripted approach, but it's also a lot more work because of the time it takes to get your script to where you want it to be perfected, to give that value that you said, what do I want them to take away. But at the same time, I know that my natural personality and energy comes out more if it's not scripted. But I also see myself as improving in the craft as I go along. So I see myself as doing a balance over time. And some things, if I just feel it merits the script, I go for it. If not, I keep trying to challenge myself to go unscripted, and what comes so naturally and easy to you is a little harder for me. But now doing these things like our live interview is something that helps bring me closer to getting that comfort to just go for it, like you're saying.
And I did radio in college for a year,
Oh, nice.
a little over a year, and so you learn to riff when you do radio.
Okay.
You learn to kind of talk about things in a way that allows you to do things like for a live stream or an interview or something like we're doing here. And the more you do something, obviously, the better you're going to be. Whenever I've tried to read off a script, I watch back on the video and I sound very robotic when I try to go back and watch those videos. I much prefer the videos where I get on there, I've got a topic, I've got my bullet points, and then I just go to town.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel time pressure as you're executing that when you're not working scripted? And, are you very conscious of that as you're executing in your delivery?
Man, I used to be. I used to be very time sensitive, and I used to think that I had to do a how-to video in 2 or 3 minutes. And I have very recently learned. I just did a 40-some-odd minute video on a topic. The topic's not relevant now,
right?
But on a specific piece of software, a 42-some-odd minute, that video has gone bonkers and has done so well for me. It has been shared on forums, on subreddits, because people have found it so informational for them. And so that's 40 plus minutes of content. Now, obviously, if the topic of the video is how to set up a webcam in Skype, in all reality, that's going to take me 2 to 3 minutes to explain. Right. So I'm not going to sit here and fill the video up with fluff. But what I will do is if I'm trying to cover a whole topic, like, hey, do you want to learn Photoshop? Here is the one video that you can watch and you can get started. You're not going to be a pro Photoshop editor. You're not going to be one of those people who can Photoshop anything in and make everybody look weird. But you're going to know by the end of this video how to do Photoshop much better than you did at the beginning. If that takes 30, 40 minutes, then so be it.
Well, that's cool. Because that's the general philosophy I have. The video should be as long as it needs to be. But I'm always trying to learn from me, try to get to more brevity, because I have a philosophy that I need to give them the whole kitchen sink so there's no stone unturned, and that they don't need to look for other videos. But you sort of showed a very good sort of contrasting perspective in that when you talked about your iOS video about closing apps, that it's okay to take a piece. It didn't have to be about everything about how to operate apps on iOS, right? You actually smartly chose a problem that, so what search told you was more in demand. And so I think that's pretty smart, and even breaking up into multiple videos. This is something I want to experiment more with.
If you want to do successful how-to and educational videos, if you explode everything out into one video, you're not leaving very much to be desired. Mm-hmm. And so if your end goal is to create courses, or your end goal is to break it down into sections so they stay, your watch time is increased, there are a lot of strategic things behind learning how to play with length of videos and how to break things up. Now, could I have broken up that 40-minute video? Yes, I could. Mm-hmm. But I create these 40-minute videos as what I call tent pole content. content that will be on my YouTube channel that will be visible for years to come. And so when someone's watching this 40-minute video on topic A, let's say the topic is YouTube, it's going to interest them in other stuff that I do. And that's going to trickle down to other videos, to podcasts, to blog posts, to following me on social media. So yeah, I'm not doing 40-minute videos time and time again, but every now and then I will do those tentpole pieces of content in hopes of having that as a mainstay on my channel for years to come, to continue to drive traffic, to continue to drive revenue, and to continue to drive my business forward.
Yeah, I think that's a great strategy. And I've been trying to take the philosophy now as I look forward to I have some that are deeper dive, longer tutorials, and my worry is that if I don't keep them interested long enough, some of the best material is left in that long video. So I need to balance that too, and so for me, it's an experimentation direction that I'm going to explore in terms of breaking things up more. And I'd like to add another dimension to this. We're here live, and what is your philosophy about creating a live tutorial experience? Have you thought about that all as something as something to experiment or do in your repertoire?
I remember when you approached me with that question previously, and I thought to myself, he must be reading my mind, because there's so many things that I do that I would love to give people a behind the scenes look. I do live streams. I try to do them weekly on my channel. Here recently, I haven't been because of some personal things going on with my family. But with that being said, I would absolutely love to do like a live look-in of a how-to tutorial on how to do this and how to do that. And that's something that I am very interested in and hope in the future I get to do. And so definitely something I'd be interested in.
Well, that's really good, because I've thought about other platforms to experiment with, and Twitch is starting to get more popular for things non-gaming, and but you're quite familiar with Twitch, aren't you?
Yeah, Twitch is an amazing platform. Being someone who enjoys a video game much more when I was younger, because now I have a little one at home. It's much harder to find time to do anything like that as far as a hobby. But when it comes to Twitch, it's a wonderful look at a platform that has taken the live streaming thing and have really niched down to that's what they want to do. They want to be the live streaming platform. Used to be just for video games, things like that. Now you're seeing a lot of podcasts go over there and run their shows and live stream their shows, not only on YouTube but on Twitch as well. I think in the future you're going to see Twitch grow even more. I think live streaming is a beautiful thing. One of the most fun things to do as a creator, I've found, and I've done most of it. I've done blogging, I've done website creation, I've done YouTube videos, I've done podcasting. But live, there's something about going live and having that interaction with people and being able to communicate with people within your stream. It's such an invigorating feeling, and I just love it. And if you're not live streaming, if you're not doing something live on a monthly or a bi-weekly basis, you're doing it wrong.
I almost feel like you get this kind of high, this buzz, because you got the people in the chat, you're having a nice conversation, and but for me, it still takes more than an ounce of courage to get out there and do it. But it's a lot of fun, and I highly recommend it, and I hope to do more and more of that. I wanted to ask you now about putting your face on screen in your tutorials. So a lot of people do screencasts, and they don't want to put their picture in picture and go on screen in the material that they're producing, and others do, and some people put their head like a small thing in a corner. Some people take up a larger section. Like what is your philosophy on the application of doing picture in picture as a method to your videos, as a technique?
That's a really good question. I've got kind of a couple of things that I want to kind of walk through, and I want to kind of explain to you guys why I feel this way. You've got someone like Steve Dotto doing what he does with video tutorials on YouTube. If you haven't heard of him, he's fantastic. He used to be on Canadian TV, a TV show up there. I
used to watch him all the time. Grew up watching Steve.
And Steve does tutorial videos where he puts his face on every video. I love that. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah.
I have found with the videos that I do, when I was Technology Guru 77, no one knew what I looked like. They only heard my voices on top of videos. But once I branded it to be my first and last name, I have my picture everywhere. It's on my channel banner. It's on my channel profile image. Now people know what I look like. If they saw me out in public, they'd be like, oh, there's Dusty, the host of the YouTube Creator Sub podcast. Now, I'm waiting for that to happen. I hope that it does. I will feel famous, and it'll make me feel really special. So if you see me out in public and you're around the Atlanta, Georgia area, please, please, please stop by, say hello. I would love to chat with you guys. But when it comes to putting your webcam or your face on top of your how-to video, I have found that the more screen I can show when it comes to showing people how to use software, the better. And if I have a portion of that, even if it's a small portion of that covered up by a webcam or my face cam, it takes away from the actual content. That is my opinion. I think Steve does it really well in what he does with his videos. But for me personally, maybe in the future, I will change my opinion on this. But currently right now, I feel that I want to give people the most screen real estate possible, especially if I'm doing screencasting videos and do it that way. It's not because I'm afraid to put my face out there, because I do live streams almost on a weekly basis. So and when it comes to that, it's not because I'm afraid of it. I just feel like I want to get the most screen real estate as possible and not cover up something that may be pertinent to helping people with the video that I'm trying to create.
Yeah, and for me, so far, I haven't put my face on any of the screencasts because where I do the recordings in the computer, I need a green screen background in order to effectively just put me in without some other kind of framing. So I'm soon to do that because I have a green screen. I just need to pick up across the way to get, and then I'm going to try and experiment a bit with that. So I'm kind of excited and do a few different camera angles just to try and make the experience more interesting for people. And Steve does such a brilliant job, and he does live with pre-recorded bits too. He does a whole combination of things, and like you said, he's just a master with it all, right?
Yeah, he's fantastic. And I apologize there. I had a little internet snafu there. You kind of cut out. You kind of cut out on me, but I assume you're talking about Steve.
Yes. Yeah.
No, he's absolutely mastered the art of the screencast video with the face cam, and I think that's a niche that he holds. And I think that if I could do it as good as he does it, then I definitely would.
Agreed. He's quite a talent. So when you now I'm curious about content strategy for tutorials. So when what motivates you to choose a particular topic? Because of the broad scope, the diversity of what you said you allow your content to be, does it fit into some big picture why? Does it tie to trending? Does it tie to like the latest? Like what inspires you? Like what are the variables you evaluate to determine, I'm going to do an iOS video now, or I'm going to do something for Camtasia or OBS? How do you make your decisions?
I am a nerd. And I love technology. I love software. I love hardware. And so with all of that being said, there really isn't a rhyme or a reason. It really is what is popular, what is happening right now. And obviously it has to be something I'm knowledgeable about. If it's a YouTube tutorial, obviously I know YouTube in and out. If it's about Photoshop, I've been in Photoshop since I was like 13 or 14 years old. And so it's things that I'm very knowledgeable about. But for the most part, Gord, it's the questions that I think people want answered most. So one of my more popular videos on my channel, and this is going to blow people's minds, is like how to find your stream key on YouTube or how to find your stream key on Twitch. It's like a 2-minute video. People are out there searching for it. You think of how people use YouTube right now. Yeah. I was at my grandfather's house the other day when he had some health issues, and my dad and I were trying to unclog their old bathtub they have in there. And I told him, I said, why don't we YouTube it? Why don't we go to YouTube and see if there is a guy on here telling us how to do topic A? And lo and behold, there was. People are using YouTube not only for entertainment, they're using YouTube for education. I call it YouTube University. And so with all of that being said, you've got to think of how people are using the platform that you're publishing to. People are trying to live stream on YouTube. They're trying to live stream on Twitch. But what are their holdups? What are their snafus? It's how to set up OBS. It's how to find their stream key. And so if I can solve all of these problems for them and have them watch my videos as opposed to someone else's videos, and I can get them from point A to point B, then I'm golden. And so there really isn't a rhyme or reason. It's just kind of what's trending and what's working now.
So this is very interesting. How do you deal with, oh, I got this great idea, I want to do a video on this, and then you go search and you go, I can barely find anything here through my SEO efforts, but I know it's something that people are going to be looking for. Do you like just park that for someday I'll do that? Or do you ever say, you know what, this one's for me and I'm putting it out there?
There's two ways to answer this. One is maybe I table it for a slower week when I don't have something that I think is going to kind of take off. But I'm going to be honest with you guys. Normally, those are the videos that do better. So maybe a month or so ago, I had this idea that I wanted to help people improve their audio with OBS, with live streaming. And so there's filters and properties you can adjust to make yourself sound better when it comes to live streaming. There was one guy who did it. Now, there was a couple of other people, but their videos were trash. There was one guy who did it, and he did it okay. I'm going to give the guy props. But I did a video on how to improve and adjust your audio in OBS for live streaming. Thousands of views, 5, 6, 7,000 views after a month or so, which for my type of video, that's fantastic. It's going to be relevant for 3, 4, 5 years down the road. Yeah. It's going to be helping people for the next half decade. That's what I call a successful video. Yeah.
And I think this is very important because I want to share, because of the fact that I did a lot of Camtasia tutorial videos, many of my topics, there wasn't stuff to compete with in a sense, but I knew that, through the good coaching I got, that I wasn't going to start with those videos. Once I started to establish a degree of channel authority for my content in that area, like the Camtasia video, then I knew I could go out and say, okay, I'm doing a video now on Camtasia markers. All of these incredible ideas I have on ways to use markers to get more out of your productivity. And these videos are doing, great by the standards of the niche. But at first I would, why would I be making videos for which it's, hollering into a forest and there's no one there? And I think that's an interesting thing, that people do have a lot more latitude once they've built the channel authority to put content out there. And you're almost like in a leadership position in a way when you're starting to put new stuff out there and give it a try. And I think there's risk there if you're going by the purity of the formula of to grow, find the search terms that people are looking for, the exact problems you see that are most highly searched for. I get that, but I think there's also, depending on how focused you are, it's also opportunity to really sort of assert your uniqueness in your education too.
Yeah, early on in my YouTube career, I was afraid to tackle videos that there was not very much traffic on, or there weren't that many videos uploaded on a specific topic. But the older I get, the more versed I get with YouTube, I realize that doesn't speak on disinterest. What it speaks on is opportunity.
Yes.
It speaks on that there is an opening for someone to get in here and do a video that just deep dives on this thing and takes over the whole niche. That's what I see it as now. So if you go to YouTube and you're thinking, I want to do a video on this, let's see what else is out there, and there's not very much, that doesn't necessarily mean there's no one interested. That just means there's no one that has taken hold of that opportunity yet.
Right. And you know what I think is really cool? Because of the diversity of the kind of content that you've been providing and creating, it also gives you opportunity to do things offline in a deeper dive sense. That and you mentioned you're working on some big projects or courses and things like that. So I look at it, because of the broad brush approach that I have in sort of my umbrella niche, that it's a great opportunity to share with people you doing a deeper dive or bringing a little more of you in one of the subject areas that you do cover, but they don't get exposure to you. For example, like I'm working on a course on how I, met that I did my YouTube challenge when the partner program parameters came in, and I had to do over 3 times. I had to do 1,000 watch time hours in 1 month for me, which was well over 3.5 times what I've ever done before. And I had to put myself out on a limb and try all kinds of things. So although I didn't have a lot of YouTube content before, I've now done a lot of things and had a lot of experiences, and because of the diversity of things, I'm going to do something that's going to share some knowledge with people in like a mini course or a course. And I think it's a great opportunity when we have a diversity in what we've delivered to do all kinds of interesting things. So I just wanted to know, like, how did you feel about that in terms of are you concerned about serving all the people, part of your audience, because of that?
I, a long time ago, let go of the mindset that I had to please everybody, that I had to create videos for all 200 some odd thousand of my subscribers. I let go of that a long time ago and realized that I may be creating a video for only 5, 10, 15,000 people for the short term, and maybe 50, 60,000 for the long term. And that's okay. Mm-hmm. That's okay to do that. You don't have to please everyone. And as creators, and me personally, as a person, my personality is, Gord, mm-hmm. I want to please everyone. I am a people pleaser. That's just who I am. But as a creator, we have to get out of that mindset. Create something, create a piece of art, create a video that makes you happy. That at the end of that, when you're done producing the video, you hit the upload, you're done, you've done your sharing, and you share it on social media. When you sit back and you look at it, you're like, you know what? I'm proud of that. I'm proud of what I created, and I hope that it helps the people that I've targeted for it to help.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. For me to get that artist creative satisfaction, sometimes, doing my regular videos or stuff for course material I'm working on, I feel like I need a fix. I need some kind of quick fix. So I'll go make a video meme that has some kind of inspiration or motivation behind it. And, we can't really abandon times when we have like a craving that we need to fix. I'm just wanting to share that because sometimes you just need it to keep that long-term, connection and alignment with your heart about just exploring that way.
Yep, I agree 100% with all that.
So Dusty, given that you're working on projects and doing deeper dives, and like where do you feel people should be drawing the line between free content and giving everything away in their channel, or do you see that it matters, or that how would you in addition to that, how would you what's your belief on structuring content differently for delivery through a course that someone's going to buy versus the freely consumable content that you supply on YouTube?
So that's something that I'm really wrestling with right now. As I mentioned to you earlier, actually, I see Dan Courier from Creator Fundamentals in chat there. He and I are actually working on something kind of in collaboration together that, we're not ready to announce right now, but we are still in the early stages of doing so. And so he and I are really wrestling with course creation and things like that. But internally, doing a how-to channel like what I do, it's hard to say, okay, well, what part of this content do I need to release for free on my YouTube channel, and how much is too much? And I think my answer to that question, the more I learn, is going to kind of take people by surprise. I don't think you could ever give away too much. I mean, if you really want to know the truth, that 40-minute video that I did on a topic, I truly think I can do a paid course on that and charge $50, $99 for that, $100 for that course, and I would have a ton of people sign up for that course if I did the correct marketing for it. Mm-hmm. I really believe that there is something to where you can't ever really give too much away, because what happens is people mentally say, well, if this was given to me for free, think of how good the paid stuff is going to be. And so and some people may just say, well, they've given me so much for free, I don't mind throwing them the money here for the course because they've already helped me. And so you get people in these mindsets, and I really don't think there's a number to say, if you give away all of that for free, if you teach them how to do all of that for free, you're never going to make money on a course. I think that's inaccurate. I think if you give it all away for free, it's going to just encourage people to buy more and more.
Yeah. I totally agree, because what they're going to see is, what you're going to learn is that people have grown to like how Dusty communicates, educates, and how he shares the message. And, consuming video on YouTube, you're still having to, key in and search, and sometimes go to a library, look at a playlist. But when stuff's packaged up for a course, I think you have a little more latitude. You don't have to go through certain elements of the formalities that you do to hook people inside a YouTube video and in your first 10 seconds, and certain elements you don't need the same kind of details for closing. And allows you to get to dive into the meat and be a little less formal, which to me I think is very powerful, and people get to hear I'll say more from the heart in that kind of more flexible delivery. But they've already decided to come there because they like to consume your material, and I think it's just another opportunity for people to experience you. And even if there's material that's overlapped and a lot of it's been given away, I mean, piecing it together in a structured, organized fashion to help people carry them through a process and get to an end is like you said that before, right? You're doing that in a microcosmic way in a video. Well, now you're similarly packaging things up in a way that makes sense for value, right?
Yeah, and when you think about YouTube too, kind of like what you said, it kind of gives you an opportunity to be a little more relaxed. Whereas when you do a course, you probably want to package it in a way that's a little more, I guess you'd say, organized a little better, that's a little more constructed a little differently than just the free stuff you're giving out on YouTube. And so if you go ahead and let people see what you're giving away for free and the content you're doing for free, that's going to just encourage them to, when you do release a course, like right now, I've released over 115 some odd episodes of my podcast, my YouTube podcast. Mm-hmm. Whenever this course does come out, that Dan and I are working on, which again, it's a ways off now, it shouldn't be hard for me to sell that to those people who I've built up trust
Absolutely.
over the past couple of years. They're going to say, well, Dusty has already been providing us this, this show every week consistently for the past 2 years. And so, of course, I'm going to buy that. You see what I'm saying? So you're building that trust. And that's the thing that free content does, is it builds the trust.
Yeah, and that's so important. And people, exactly. It's almost like they got a guarantee before they buy the course that they know what they're gonna get, and I think that's profound. And you've been building that, and Dan now so regularly on and providing great content and building community. So I think it's going to be great. Look forward to that. Yeah,
that speaks to another thing too. I mentioned I'm working on something with Dan. The thought and the task of creating a course can be a daunting thing. Mm-hmm. And if you can find someone who is talented like I have with Dan, and Dan hopefully feels the same way about me, then you're taking half of the workload and the stress, and you're kind of sectioning it off. And you let that one person do what they're good at. You let you do what you're good at, and then you put those and you mush those together, and you've got something really great at the end of it. And so if you're thinking about doing a course, and you're like, oh my goodness, the thought of doing, because at the end of the day, courses are a lot of work. Yep. But when you think about it and you kind of break it into pieces, into chunks, into segments with other people, it ends up easing that load on you. And then you can create something at the end that's going to be even doubly better than what it would have been if you were to do it solely by yourself.
Yeah, and I think that's such a great point, because I think synergistically, more than one person brings other ideas to the table, and maybe even supercharges, what that is. And you as a creator get to have a lot more fun through the process too. And I think, because I struggle with how isolating being a YouTuber is and how-to channel. It's not like I'm doing a variety show every day with different guests on, although I'm getting to enjoy that with people like yourself now, Dusty. But I'm just saying, it's also something that's very important to enjoy as part of your career, right?
Yeah, it's also another situation to where you get to celebrate and enjoy the success with other people. Like the thought of doing something together and then having it succeed is doubly exciting when you can think of, if Dan and I do succeed, then we'll be able to actually celebrate together, and both of our families will be impacted from it, not just one of our families. And so it's such a cool thought to think that you can help another person on their journey as well.
Oh, I totally agree. Well said. So I have one other interesting question. And by the way, thanks so much, Jen Adventures. She has a great channel. I don't know if you've ever seen it, Dusty, but she does a lot of comedic stuff, and she's just a hoot. And she's a very gifted piano player as well. And but Dan's been here enjoying it, our conversation. It's great that you're here, Dan. Thanks again, and thank you for the super chat. Very kind from both of you. And Dusty, I also sometimes grapple with this one. Sometimes some people say to you, well, you didn't go to school to be credentialed to be a voice actor per se, or you're not a degreed instructional designer to be able to create courses and things like that. Like, I struggle with the idea that people that you license or label skill creativity. What are your thoughts on that? Because I want people to believe that they have creative gifts, and I didn't really discover what's inside me now till 4 or 5 years ago, because I thought, because I wasn't into arts and creative things when I was young, I was out on the street playing ball hockey or tennis and things like that, and the creative stuff just like wasn't there in that form at that age. So I want people to be encouraged. Like what are some words of encouragement you can give to people that are contemplating, that may be doubting their potential?
I love this conversation. It's something that I'm very passionate about. It is the sole reason why I created the YouTube Creators Hub podcast. In order to be an authority on something or on a topic, all you really have to do is start talking. I mean, if you really want to know the truth, now obviously you've got to kind of know what you're talking about, but a lot of people fake it till we make it. And no one in this planet can tell you what you can be an authority in. No one can tell you shouldn't do a course on X, Y, or Z because you don't know that or you didn't go to school. We are in a new age. We are in a new era. I am 31 years old, and I am at a time in my life where I really, honestly, I don't care what other people think. It is super hard to go out with friends and with people around here, around where I live, with my wife's friends and my friends, and they ask me, they say, well, what do you do? Well, you go around the table, there's teachers, there's doctors, there's lawn care, professionals, whatever. And then they get to me and they say, well, what do you do? Man, I go crazy. Used to, when I thought about it, I was like, I don't even know what I do. I'm a voice actor. I'm a YouTuber. I'm a this, I'm a that. Now I just tell them, listen, I'm an online educator. Okay. I'm a social media personality. I'm a YouTuber. I also do voice acting. I tell them, and that draws in interest. People love that. And then normally people don't care to talk to the other people in the room who are talking about, being a teacher or being a doctor or this and that. What they want to do is they want to talk to me about what I'm doing. They're like, so you're telling me that you do videos for YouTube? And I'm like, yeah, that's what I do for a living now. And I told them, I said, I host a podcast about YouTube. People, it just blows their mind. I want to encourage people listening to my podcast now in this live stream. Nobody can tell you what you can do. And now I have a 3-year-old daughter, and every time, she's just now getting to the point to where we're having little conversations about stuff. And growing up, I don't want her to ever think that she's limited to do anything that she ever wants to do. I don't care what it is. Maybe she's not going to be good at it, but me as her father, I'm going to tell her, baby, you can do and be whatever you want to be. And in the world of the internet, honestly, guys, there's nothing that you can't do or accomplish if you're willing to put in the time and the effort to get there. Yes, I have a successful podcast now, but it's only because I put in 2, 3, 4 years of work to get it to where it is now. If you're willing to put in the effort, if you're willing to dig into a topic, if you're willing to be an authority at something, if you're willing to put yourself out there, you can talk and teach and be anything you want to be.
I think that's just great words that you shared, Dusty. And I wanted to add one last dimension to this. And that is, I'm 58 years old, almost a multiple of 2 times your age. And, us older people, and this was mentioned here in the comments by your real estate whisperer, people tell me that I should do my videos the way I do them. I'm too old to care anymore. It's interesting because the older we get, the longer our habits that we've had and we've built up get ingrained. And so like I grew up in an era was, you should be a doctor or an accountant or a this or that. One of these like, standardized label things. I went to school to be an accountant and got trained, but then I said, this ain't for me. And I bailed on it. But it's funny how, we don't march enough to our own drum. And what I like is that, at your age and people younger, the more that you try and experiment to find what that is that really gets you stoked and really want to get up every morning and create and do is just fantastic, because to sit there and not explore is like, a sentence which you put on yourself, and you decide. You are the one to literally decide whether you're going to take that step. And for the longest time, and that's why I raised this question about instructional designer and other things. So I've spent years now developing my skills in being able to craft courses and other things and learning from other experts. But I'm not going back to college or university at my young age. I'm here, like YouTube can bring an incredible education, as well as a lot of coaches and other things. I think we just live in a totally different, era now, and my generation needs to, I think, have more latitude to believe that anything is possible. And that's part of what I want to bring to people, is to show them that, me being a boomer, that I did a pivot after I was let go from the corporate domain and was left in the wasteland, that you can pivot, you can reinvent yourself and get passion and go for it. And you don't need to sit there and say, well, I don't have this and I don't have that. I just wanted to share that as a generational dichotomy that I think is relevant for people to appreciate.
This is a great, intriguing conversation, and I just hope that someone listening to this, whether it be on my podcast or your YouTube channel, I just hope that it empowers them to do what they've always wanted to do, and not to settle for something just because someone says they need or should do this. The internet and what we have at our fingertips and what we have in our pocket when, concerning our smartphones, it gives us the opportunity that people, even in your generation growing up, did not have. And so sure. I really hope that people can see the opportunities at their fingertips, and I hope they're willing to go out and to grasp it and to put the work in.
Yeah. And the last point I want to make is, the older generation has a tougher time developing a thicker skin, because we didn't, grow up per se on social media the same way. So we're more protective, I think, by nature of what we share and disclose. People now are, younger generations, they know this is their reality, and being force-fed stuff through television is not necessarily the way to go, right?
No.
And that's what I find, so interesting, the dynamics of how people see things differently. So Dusty, can you share with us? Well, obviously you're working on those cool projects that you mentioned. What are some things on the horizon? Do you go to conferences, or what do you explore? Like, how does Dusty keep on top of things?
So that's conferences are definitely what's next for me. Having a family that, having a little one here at the house, is very difficult to travel. And I've made the decision a long time ago that I was not going to be one of those creators who went to like every VidCon and every this con and that con. I can kind of keep tabs on that stuff from afar. And a lot of those people who go to these things, they're either really close or really local, or they a lot of times don't have a family, or if they do, they've planned it months in advance. And so in the future, I want to go to Podcast Movement in Chicago. I'm definitely going to be going to VidCon. I'm definitely going to be possibly going to like ClamorCon right now is going on down in Palm Springs, Florida. There's a lot of things that I want to go to, but as far as what's next for me, because I am doing this full time now, I'm able to invest more monetarily in my studio. My studio is coming along really nicely right now. I've got soundproofing on this side of my office, my studio. I've got someone coming in to help me install soundproofing on this end where the door is. I've got some new equipment coming in. I got new things that are always kind of coming in and out of the studio. I've got some really cool courses planned that I just talked about a little earlier. The podcast stuff that I'm doing is moving forward. I've got some really cool voice acting gigs coming up that I just because of NDA stuff I can't speak on right now.
Sure.
There's so many things, and obviously the normal stuff, right? Like the producing the videos on a weekly or biweekly basis, the podcast production. There's so many things that I got going on, Gord. And as a creator, I love being able to wake up every day and not knowing what the day holds. You know, like a couple of weeks ago, I didn't know you and I would be doing this today, but we are now. And so with that being said, I love waking up. I love going to the gym and then coming back to the studio and just doing unique and diversified things on a daily basis.
Well, I think that's great, and I think you're living what many would call a dream, but you've made it reality through hard work, and I'm a few 2-3 years into my gig, and I'm really inspired and excited, and I see that you've put a lot of things in place that I'm working towards, and I really value our friendship and connection, and this old guy's learning some things from Dusty.
I hope so, and I definitely learned some things from you too, and I really appreciate you having me on today.
Well, thank you very much, and so Dusty, where does everybody go to find you on the web and as an online creator?
So on YouTube, it's just Dusty Porter, DUSTYPORTER, and then you can find me dustyporter.com. You've got links there to all of my different services like YouTube coaching, podcast coaching, consultancy, as well as video, wedding videography, podcast production, and things like that over on my website. Other than that, it's like I said, Tech Guru 77 on Twitter. I still haven't changed that one. I'm working on that now. But if you just search for Dusty Porter, normally you can track me down. And I don't mind answering emails. If you ever want to email me or get in touch with me, dusty@dustyporter.com. Love to chat with people about things all throughout the week.
Well, that's fantastic. And thank you again, Dusty. It was a pleasure having you and sharing all your great insights. And I look forward to seeing what's to come. And thank you, everyone, for joining us in chat. And it was a pleasure. And I greatly appreciate you all coming out. And, please let us know in the comments how you liked it and some other things you'd like to see for me doing more in these kind of live streams. And I appreciate you all, and thank you, and take care. Bye-bye.